All right, a little follow-up from my previous speedrun fail where I forgot that speedruns were supposed to be quick rather than checking my answers. Let's have a little look at what the examiners thought of this paper. So this is a very useful tool if you've gone through a paper to figure out, did you struggle where everyone else struggled? Did you do a non-standard approach? How could you have done it? Because the mark scheme doesn't always tell us everything. So it's always interesting, I find, to have a look at what the examiners were thinking. Later questions offered greater challenge, 7 and 8. And if we remember on my video, go watch it, that's where I slowed down massively, right? I was well on track for getting this done in an hour. And 7 and 8 just tanked me because of, like, basically I thought some answers would come out a little bit nicer than they did. And that really threw me. Incorrect simplification, question 3. Insufficient work was seen for the base case. That will be the proof by induction. So we'll go check that one. Vector equation for lines. Let's go have a look. So question 1, that was our roots of polynomials. Lots of full marks. So they went, a lot of people, they suggested using the x equals w minus 2. And to be fair, I've done a few questions like that recently, and it probably is easier. The method I used by looking at the sum, the product, and the pairs were less successful. I mean, as you can see, probably would have been a lot more straightforward for me to just expand a few brackets. So I do tend to agree with that. This was interesting. It's like some people just tried to retro-engineer an entire new polynomial, but just by doing it as the brackets instead of these ones up here, and then expanding that, which is essentially you get back to figuring out all of these values, but you can see they rarely scored more than the first 2 marks, so that was interesting. Using the target, that was interesting. So the question sort of gave us an idea of what we were looking for. So substitute w equals x plus 2 into the target cubic, compare coefficients. So that would be working backwards, which is fascinating as an idea, right? You would go, well, I want a times x plus 2 cubed plus b times x plus 2 squared, ... expand and compare. And that is a fascinating approach rather than just putting this one in and expanding. Either way, probably better than my attempt. Well, quicker, almost certainly, than my attempt. So question 2, that was our integral using arc cosh and making some luns happen. So that was cool. Or errors were very rare in part A. I mean, come on, it's a further maths paper. Of course, that should be fairly straightforward. Most candidates left their answer in arc cosh in part B. Usually working directly from the integral, having used part A to rearrange the denominator. Yes. They tried to use the standard result with no working, but got it wrong. So that's where taking time to make sure that we go through this carefully is very useful. A few gave it as just a logarithm, right? I mean, the question didn't ask for it as a logarithm. We wanted there, but it turns out in the next part, it would have been useful. But there we go. Some just went full on substitution. I mean, if I was trying to not use the formula booklet, I would have to do that as well, because I can't remember desperately which way around it goes. Most knew how to find. Those who failed to do... so most people knew how to find the mean value, but otherwise just put it into your integral. And then some incorrect substitutions at the end. I mean, this bit here, right here, trying to get the correct Lund form, I can see that being tricksy. But yeah, fair enough. I agree with this. I mean, I agree. There's nothing to agree or disagree with, but I can see where they're coming from. Right, getting it in modulus argument form. Main thing to look out for that people did was getting it in the incorrect quadrant. So looking carefully at what range they want things as. And if you're doing with coshes, with tans, you can easily get it in the incorrect quadrant because the principal value, I think, when you do the arctan of -1 will give you minus pi/4. So you do need to make sure you get in the correct quadrant. Literally, I've just recorded today a TikTok video where that comes up, so do keep an eye out for that one. So correct answers only with no working scored no marks, all right, in part B. All right, because of course you could just plug this into a calculator and get the required answers. So that is not what you are being tested on. So do be very, so no working scored no marks. All right, because obviously if you could just put it into a calculator, there is no point. So do be careful. right? There are some questions where if you've got the correct answer without the working, you might get the mark because you couldn't do it in a calculator, like normally algebra ones. But questions like this, where you could just plug these numbers, Z1, Z2, put them into your calculator, divide them, this will come out. And I've just realized that, in fact, I'm missing some I's that I wrote down there. Wonder if I'd have got given the typo mark for an obvious typo. Don't know. Would the examiner even have seen that? Or try to divide them in Cartesian form. Don't do that. So some people try to do them in Cartesian form and then simplify them. That sounds terrible. That sounds awful, right? We went to all the trouble of getting them in modulus argument. Let's use modulus argument, right? In part 2, use demoivres. Perfect. There were some failed attempts to write their answers. Yeah, but once we've got this far, simplifying it and sorting it out should be fine. Now, part C, only 1/3 scored full marks. So where was the axes? Axes were sometimes poorly drawn. I mean, yeah, you had to draw them yourself, but that's where you bring a ruler in with you, right? And make sure you have a vague, make it vaguely look okay. If I can do it, you can do it. Z1's into appear to be equidistant from O. No, absolutely not, right? Z1, Z2 is closer because the R's are divided, so that was very important. Put it in the incorrect quadrant. I mean, yeah, we've calculated them, right? So we should be getting them in the correct quadrant. Be very careful of that. And then in part 2, quite a number did not draw a line or have any shading. I mean, a few realize. So, being able to sketch one of these roughly okay is an important skill for us to do. Very few specified which side to be the believed area. At least put a side, right? Shading it. Incorrect areas include areas between arcs. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Okay, so knowing your loci in complex form, it doesn't always come up, but it is worth having because obviously this is what can budge you from a B to an A to an A star, right? If lots of people got part C wrong, then those part C's are areas, and this is why it's useful going through, right? So obviously this is an area where lots of people that year sort of overlooked in their revision. So maybe one for us to look at when we're revising at the end of the year. Question 10, I mean, fairly straightforward. N is 1. I mean, I did it for N is 0 because I don't know why. I still don't know if I'd have got the marks for that. A significant number did not explicitly show the substitute N equals 1 in the right-hand matrix. So that's where this comes in, right? I did it with 0, right? But you do want to show explicitly that you have plugged that in. Don't just go, oh, it works. Okay. Set up the target result and did a meet in the middle. I mean, sometimes if you're not sure where you're going with something, just skip to the end and work backwards. That can also be a very valid way, but you open this thing up to errors. Great difficult sum come with the final statement. So, do not say there's a difference between all n and all real numbers. So that's an interesting one. People went for all real numbers. No, it's for all n or all natural numbers. So you need that if then, right? And we see that there. If it's true for n equals k, it's also true. So you need all of those marks. So this does not come as a surprise, and I'm fairly certain that if you go and read examiner reports for any one of these papers that has a proof by induction, you will find a very similar paragraph with student after student after student not taking the time to learn all the different bits. I mean, it's the same things every time, right? For these conclusions for a proof by induction, but we still need to sit down and learn them. So absolutely one for us to know and highlight. Question 5. Ooh, so this one was a range. Interesting. So part A, fairly chill. I mean, come on, bog standard going from vector Cartesian equation of a line to a vector equation of a line and finding where it meets a plane. So that's what most people do. A few attempted to rearrange the Cartesian equation of the line to express y and z in terms of x and put those back in. I mean, it should work, right? Take these 2 by 2, x plus 5 equals y plus 4 over minus 3, rearrange for y. take the first and the last one, rearrange for Z, and plug them into that. But oof, feels unpleasant, if you ask me. But, you know, who am I to judge? Part B. Ooh, competently. I like that. They did it competently. That is faint praise indeed. Most people. So that was reflecting the line, I do believe, right? Most set up the equation of a new line using the normal to the plane and a point on the given line. Usually -5, -4, 3, because it's what makes sense, right? It's what I did. It's the one they give you, so you might as well. Find the parameter where this line met the plane, which is what we did. And equation, those who had used an initial. They did not write R equals, so I think you lose a mark for that. That lost them the final accuracy mark. So if you're asked to write in a certain way, write it in a certain way. That is fascinating that they did go for that. So if there was no R equals, then you do miss out on the final accuracy mark. Wowza. A relatively small number of candidates identified a point on L1. Yes. Right, in part C, what was part C? I can't remember part C. Oh yeah, my one felt a little bit clunky, but what did most people do? What did I? So I showed, yeah. So relatively few students use their result from part B to establish a second point on the line of intersection. I mean, I hate, because we did that there, right? I mean, I suppose I could have done that. So some people try to find the equation of the second plane. That feels, yes, time consuming. Oh, sorry. So interesting, the vector product is not on the spec, but its use was entirely acceptable. So is that part B? So part B is a reflection. Part C, I can't even remember what part C was. Do you know? What was part C for this paper? Which question are we on? Question 5. Determine a vector equation. How did I do it? I think I did. I found a second point on it. Ah, yeah, I used these 2 points, didn't I? Did I use those 2 points? I feel like I used those 2 points. I used those 2 points. So I did, in fact, there we go. Right. I just needed to remind myself. Yeah, so use a second point, so which is what I did, right, to find that vector there. And then you are up and running. So, yeah, often was the vector product. So people trying to find that second plane instead of just using the geometry of what we've done. So it's always useful to do that. But I do find this interesting and it comes up again. So if you do further pure or you do, you've learned a different spec and you know the vector product, you are absolutely able to use it. And then part D was pi1. Oh, another plane that looks like that form a sheaf. So what did they say? Many candidates did not attempt a solution. Yes, we are not many candidates. Common method was finding the vector equation of the second plane. Oh yeah, a linear combination of the 3 planes. Again, finding the equation. So I just didn't find the equation of the second plane because otherwise, yeah, you would have just done determinant equals 0, but I didn't want to do that. Those with 2 points on the line of intersection will be able to find the variable by substituting these position vectors into the equation of the third plane. Oh, yeah, sure. Sure, because the third plane needs to go through those points. So what I did is I said any point on that line of intersection is on the plane, and that was my argument. But of course, you could have just taken the 2 points we had and shown that they're on the plane. So that's kind of cool as well. All right, so maybe I went completely off piste on that one and just tried to show it forever and ever and ever, but there you go. Right, which one was question 6? Ah, water flow. I didn't think there was anything particularly interesting in this question. Part A. So where were they failing? Try to for V. No, DVDT, right? The link between the word rate and DVDT seem to be poorly understood. So that is something that we are not going to poorly understand, right? We see the word rate and we know that we are going d by dt. We know this. Those who did try and set it up got full marks. It was sort of an all or nothing little bit. So knowing how to set these up, right? Rate of volume, rate of water in, they come up time and time again. So really we should know it. And a small number used dVdt equals +3. Oh no, it's flowing out. Water was flowing out. But the thing is, once you've got it, right? Once you've got it, you can go do well, you didn't even need it. Part B is just differentiate, did not, although some kind did not attempt this part. Huh. Well, it's just differentiating a chain rule. We should be able to do that. Silly, silly, silly. Although having said that, my handwriting there, I've just managed, I think, to squeak the 2 in there. A pleasing majority rearrange the different equation recognize the technique required. And the correct integrating factor, although notable minority had an incoherent coefficient. Okay. Did not include the constant of integration and did not deal with it correctly when dividing. So this bit over here, when you divide through it, was very, very important. Now let's see. This one was interesting because, yeah, not real accuracy. A minority of responses. Right, hang on. Part D. Although the correct value for V when Tison was rarely seen. Huh. Oh, I suppose if you got C wrong, you're not going to get the correct value for T as 10 there. So there we go. Some people got a negative value and just said it's not good value. Well, if you ended up with a negative value of V, I really hope you go, maybe I've done something wrong, which is where probably my attempt to do this fast fell down because I was spending my time checking everything. Right, what was question 7? I mean, if you're watching this, I'm assuming you've checked up on the paper we did. Question 7. Oh, yeah. Like our telescoping series, our proof of our method of differences. Okay, all right. I mean, the explain right is very wordy. No. Yeah, there we go. Those that kept it simple by listing, then grouping and showing. Yeah, we go. There we go, right? List them out, show that we get this, group them up. Love it. Very few managed to also justify. Maybe I would have lost a mark for justifying why there's n of them, but maybe to do that, I should have added in to make it absolutely crystal clear that the last one here would have been f of 2n minus 1, and that would have been f of 2n. That probably would have been a perfectly good justification. I don't know. It's only 2 marks. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. But yeah, just making sure you explain it properly and don't go into waffle. Look at this. Very wordy and unclear answers. It's a maths paper. Never go into waffle. Says the man who's been waffling for 20 minutes. Right, part B. I mean, stretched out. I mean, I found the algebra in this tricky, right? Again, we're into the questions that stumped me for time. My algebra is pretty good. Proving beyond a substantial number of candidates. So basically, this bit was tricky. That makes me feel, I mean, better because I found it as hard as a bunch of 17-year-olds, but still. All right, the point is this, the algebra here was unpleasant. All right, that is just a fact. They have recognized it. Missing how to use part A. Yes. So obviously it's here, that one there where we used part A to go from there to there. That was missed by a few people. And then cubic equations and all kinds of horribleness. Because the point is when you go from there to there, some stuff should disappear. Some stuff should disappear. Right. 2n to n, we didn't miss that, but being very careful with your upper limits, that's important. Some very low scoring. So part 7 was poor. Was poor. those that were not put off. Now, this is important, right? And they even put it this way. People get put off by it, right? People freak out. People get put off. But I think it's very important to not, right? And that's this term here, is don't freak out, because obviously we'd seen part A was here, but that was nowhere to be seen in part B. So maybe sometimes it's worth just taking a second and thinking, well, what can that be written as? And it's that phrasing put off, because they can tell that students see it and go, oh, I don't want to, but never do that, right? We don't want to go, oh, I don't want to, and not trying it. We need to try something. So part C was very rarely answered correctly. And now I think that's because the majority of candidates actually split, so upper limit 12 and 13. That's the one. And that's where it took an extra time, right? And that's why they need to be even, because the result that we have is up to 2n, right? Was the sum for 2n. And that's what I spoke about in my solution. So that's where going to get that n is 13. It was equally common to use 12 or 14. Of the very few that did, 12, 14 made the appropriate adjustment, okay? So basically people got either very poor marks or very good marks, but being very careful with our upper limits, which does seem to be the story of this question. And finally, question 8 was not 10 poll students. Ha 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 ha. All right, okay, so they've recognized that this was a long paper. They recognize this is a long paper. Again, I know that I should hold myself to slightly different standards, but it does make me feel a little bit better that it is recognized that this was a long paper. So this is interesting. They are recognizing that the different parts are accessible even if you didn't provide the previous ones, right? There we go. So good correct answers tend to be that some mowers will become breeders, infertile. Yeah. So there we go. That's the same sort of things that I wrote down. Again, I'm not trying, like I've already gone through marking my paper. I'm just trying to, relate what they are saying to an actual set of solutions, which are mine in this case. Full marks in part B, so that's solid, very nice. I mean, it was relatively straightforward what to do. You just had to crunch through it. Not a lot to talk about there. So finding the inverse matrix, arithmetic signs and sign errors. I mean, I had to hunt for those all the way through. So there we go. And same here, right? Time pressure, I was feeling it. So that's the whole thing of us doing these live papers, whether they do become a speed run or not, is to show you that for everyone there is time pressure, and that does reflect in our accuracy. But also when the numbers come out like this, you start doubting what you've done as well. But anyway, quite time consuming. Very few attempted part E, and that is where that was a problem. There was a part E. Did I not do a part E? Did I miss part E? Oh, I just lost 2 marks here. So I've given myself too many marks here. So I'd have to change my score. Let's do that. So that should in fact be 9 out of 13. Oh, that's frustrating. So that will be 69 out of 75. So I lost whatever that is. So what was that? 69 divided by 75 times by 100. So that's 92%. Less happy with that, but still. Times that by 5 for what? 460? So 460. It's a nicer score though, right? It's a nicer score, but I think overall, hopefully, as we do more of these, that will prove to be a very, very low scoring paper. So part D, I mean, yeah, part D was done not great because we were trying to do this and the B's came out very, very. Do they even recognize that? Yeah, no, not really. That their numbers came out absolutely horse poop, and that made people doubt themselves. So some people try to waffle the newborn males and females as a part of the study, assuming that 42% of the newborns are male. Refine the matrix gradually to reflect this information, giving a reason for your answer. Ah, I see. I see. I see. Right, so it's only 2 marks, but not a big waffle, because the idea here is, of course, as we went through and looked at this, it's those newborns, you would need 2 new categories, so a 4x4, male newborns, female newborns. And the point is the male newborns will never become breeders, right? The male newborns do not become breeders. So that's important. That is important. Right, and there we go. That is our little blather through as we go through this examiner's report. I think it's an interesting exercise to do, to see how the examiners saw these things as well, how they interpreted the answers, and also if you found it hard, in my case you thought it was a very time-consuming paper, it's quite useful to see that actually, yes, the consensus was that it was time-consuming. So there we go, onwards and upwards. We'll be doing another attempt at a speed run, or maybe just me doing an exam paper, depending on how long it takes, coming up soon. So join us for that here at My Headspace Maths. From Nick, hope this was useful to you. See you soon. And don't forget to like, subscribe, drop us a comment, all of those good things, so that you don't miss any of this top quality Man Reads exam report every week or so. See you soon.